traditional HTML layout, okay, is that there is a lot of divs in the use. Okay, they use a lot of what divs to group the elements together, okay, on a page. Now when there are a lot of divs, okay, the divs are used for headers, for articles, for footer, and for sidebar. What we do is we put a lot of IDs and a lot of classes. So we give a lot of class names so that you can style them together, and a lot of ID attributes, and you'll be able to what? To style them together. So you see a lot of divs. The divs actually describe the structure of the page. Okay, so usually at the top of every page you see the header. Okay, the header contains the logo and then the nav bar. Okay, we are also going to talk about how to add articles, okay, and how to add links to individual posts and pages. Okay, usually the sidebar is on the right, okay, which contains search options, it contains favorites, list or recent posts, okay, and what have you. And then when you are coding such a site, okay, you usually put these main sections of the page inside the div and use classes and IDs to indicate the purpose of those pages. Now this is the classical example of a traditional HTML page, the structure. So you see there's a div. First of all, this div is covering the entire web page, and it has an ID, okay, and then you see other div here that contains the header, which talks about the navigation bar, another div which refers to the content, another div for the article. So you see a lot of divs. In fact, the sidebar also is a div, and then the footer is also a div. So either you see a class or an ID. That is what they use in styling and to differentiate between the elements. Okay, they group them together in divs. That is what is usually done in the traditional HTML5. Now the HTML5, okay, has brought in some new elements that allow you to divide parts, okay, of the page. Usually it's just like the same as the traditional HTML, but in the new HTML5 element, they've brought in a lot of elements that came to substitute the divs. So you will not be seeing a lot of divs as compared to the traditional HTML, but it's almost the same structure. Now the HTML5 brought an element called header, okay, and there's an element called nav that is used in the navigation. The header sits inside a new header element, okay, the navigation is in the nav element, and the articles are in the article. The point of creating this new element is so that web page authors can use them to help describe the structure of the page. For example, if you are using a screen reader software, you might program it to ignore all headers and footers and get straight to the content and read it out. Let's say for those who are visually impaired. Similarly, you can also allow search engines to put more weight on the content in the article than in the header or the footer. Okay. Now this is the structure of the new HTML5. You see, the structure is just the same, but just that if you check around this place, this has replaced a div. This element here has come to replace a div, and there's article here also replacing a div. But in the previous one, you would have seen a div here with an ID or a class. You see a div here with an ID or a class to represent the sidebar. So it's actually the same structure as we showed you, but in this case some elements have come to do the work of a lot of the divs. Okay,